Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Elizabeth. It's good to have you. Please consider subscribing and turning on your post notification bell if you are a crafter or just like crafting videos. My goal is to grow to 1,000 subscribers, so please help me to achieve my goal so I can continue to bring you more crafting videos. Today I'm going to show you how to digitize a patch using a few simple steps in Embird. I have a video of me doing a stitch out of a similar patch, so I will link that at the top. This method means that you are able to create a patch with a nice clean edge. So if you would like to see how I do that, stay tuned. So I am in Embird and I am in the studio version of Embird, which is where I do my digitizing. There are different plugins that you can get when you purchase the software. So in order to do any digitizing, you need the studio plugin. For this project that I'm going to be showing you as well, I've also purchased the font engine plugin, which allows me to use fonts that are available on my computer as fonts that you can turn into stitches basically. So the first thing I do when I come into Embird in the studio version is I'm going to go up here and select my hoop. So I'm going to click on this icon here, and then I've already got the size of the hoop that I want, which is the 140 by 140 millimeter hoop, but I'm just going to show you how to select whichever hoop you want to use. So if you click here on this blue font here, it's going to bring you up a whole list of different hoops and depending on what machine you have. So I use the Janome Memorycraft 550, so I can go onto that section and pick my hoop that is appropriate for my project. So here is the Janome Memorycraft. It says 500, but the 500 and the 550 also use this size hoop. So I've got that selected and it's a square hoop, so I'm going to hit the check mark and apply. So that is what I already have set up. So I'm going to just make my hoop a bit bigger and zoomed in for you. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to draw an area for my patch. So in order to do that, I need to do an outline. So I'm going to come over here and click on this outline icon here, and I'm going to just left click and just drop. I'm using a mouse, by the way. I'm going to left click and just drop a node. Okay, because in order to draw a shape, you need to first of all drop a node onto your hoop, and then you go into shape, which is up here. So you go into shape, and I'm going to select a rectangle, and then I'm going to hold my left mouse down and drag out a shape. Okay, so I'm dragging out a rectangle. Once I've done that, you'll see here that your tick mark is not actually, you're not able to click that. So in order to finish off this rectangle, you need to right click it, go to elements here, click on go to elements, and then you can click on your check mark here. So then you have a rectangle. So I need to change the size of my rectangle here, because I want my rectangle to be 35 millimeter by about 65 millimeters wide. That's the size of my patch, which is 3.5 centimeters by 6.5 centimeters, but I really love working in millimeters. So you can either go down here and click this, and this will bring up your transform window, or you can go up here to where it says transform, click up there, and then click on transform window, and that will bring you up the same window. But I often go here and to bring up this window. So you have this window here is where you can transform whatever the element is that you have selected. So you can change the direction of it, the rotation, you can skew it, and here is where you can change the size of it as well. So I'm just going to click on this icon here so I can change the size. So I have here right now, we can see the measurements 76.40 millimeters by 26.60 millimeters. And I want to change that. So I'm gonna, at the moment, the aspect ratio here is still clicked on. So I'm going to turn that off because I want to be able to change the measurement myself, the length and the width myself. So I'm going to click that off. Then I'm going to go up the top here and I'm going to change that to 65 and hit the check mark. So just to let you know, you can, if you right click, you can increase how big you want it, or so if you left click, you can increase how big you want it, and if you right click, you can decrease it. If you click on the arrows, it just takes you straight into another a box where you can put in the figures yourself. Okay, so here I would like 35 millimeters, and then I'm going to hit the check mark. That's just a quicker way. If you want to increase by small amounts, you can click on here, but to just go directly to what you want, I would click on these arrows. So I'm going to apply that. My measurements are there and I'm going to apply that. So here is the size of my patch, but I'm going to close that. So I'm now going to go into parameters, okay, because this is going to be how big my whole patch is and my satin stitch as well. So I'm going to go straight into parameters and I'm going to select satin stitch, which is here, okay, and I'm going to make the size of my satin stitch. I'm going to, at the moment, is 2 millimeters, which is incredibly thin for the border of my patch. I'm going to increase that, so I'm clicking here where it says width, or you can do the same thing, left click to increase, or right click to decrease here, but I've clicked on this word here and it's brought me up this window. Okay, and I want my satin stitch to be 3.5 millimeters. I'm going to hit the check mark, and I'm also going to change the density of my my satin stitch here. So the bigger the number, the less dense it's going to be, and the less the number, the more dense it's going to be, which sounds a little bit backwards, but there you go. So I'm going to just right click here to decrease to about 3.5. As for my pull compensation, I've been setting my pull compensation to 0.3, and that has been working for me. So I'm going to now leave it as auto underlay, that's fine, and I'm going to apply the stitches and generate. Okay, so this is my this is the size of my patch, and this is basically my boundary. So I do not want to come out of this this rectangle here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to this icon, because I'm going to start putting in my my fonts. So I'm coming up here to the font engine text. I'm going to click on it, and when you click on it, you need to drop the node down, or place and click down with your left mouse. So I'm going to do that, and here are all the fonts. Okay, you can see here on the right, these are all the fonts that are available on my computer, which you can use. And that's a nice thing about having this plugin. So I'm going to be using the college font. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to type in the initials for my my channel, Eliz Art Design Studio. So EDS, and then I'm going to hit the check mark. Once that's done, I can see here, if I click, if you can see here actually, before I click off, we can see that I have some connections there. Okay, because it just wants to continue to do a connection. But as this is going to be a patch, I do not want it to have any connections, because I'm going to separate these letters. So I'm going to click off, and then I'm going to select those connections. I'm going to hold down my control and select the other one. Then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to delete them. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to select my letters, so I can draw a box around them by holding down my left mouse and dragging out a kind of marquee around it to select it. And then I'm going to go and change the size of my my letters. So I'm going to just click here. It's going to bring up this window. I'm going to click on this icon here to change the dimensions of my lettering. I'm going to leave my aspect ratio on at this time, because I want it to be even when it increases the size. So I'm just going to click here, and I want my lettering to be about 20 millimeters. So we've already got a selection here. I can either type it in myself, or I can just select it here and hit the check mark and apply. Okay, so that's made it bigger. So I'm just going to try and get it somewhat in the middle of the rectangle. And what I can actually do to get it in the middle is I can select everything. So I'm drawing a marquee around everything. Going back to my transform window, and then I am going to hit this icon here. So I'm clicking on this icon here, where I can then get this to center. Is this the right one? I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Yes, so it's centered it for me. So we just wanted it centered. So yeah, apply and close. Okay, so it's in the middle at the moment. It's in the middle, and I can see it's very tight here and very tight there also. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to shift everything to the left. So I've selected it, I'm holding down my shift key, and I'm using my direction keys to just push this back a bit, like that. Then I'm going to select my D and my S and push it over slightly, You can be even more precise here, but just for the sake of the video, I'm just showing you how to just separate them. Okay, so they're roughly about the same distance there. So they're roughly about the same distance now. Now I'm going to select each letter and I'm going to create an outline. So I'm going to select my E first of all, and then I'm going to come up here to this icon, and this icon is an auto outliner. I'm going to hit that. It's going to tell me it wants to create a compact outline. I can say yes, and there's no connections in an E, so you can either click yes or no, but I'm going to click no because there are no connections. It's just one flow or movement of stitches. So we've got our E done. I'm also going to come up here now. Now that I have the outline of my E done, which you can see here, I'm going to give that a different color. So let's give it a blue color, like that, so you can see a bit better. I'm going to go into parameters now because that is selected. I'm going to go into parameters, which is this icon here. It looks like a speedometer of in a car, so I'm going to click that, or you can do a right click and it will also come up like that, and then you can click parameters, but you have an icon here, so I always just click that one. And for this outline, I'm going to give it a bean stitch. So I'm going to hit this down arrow here and click the triple bean stitch. I'm okay with the length and the width. I'm going to click apply and generate stitches. Let's have a look at it in 3D. So if I click down here, we can see what that looks like that. Okay, so if I go back to where the E is, this is how I'm going to create an offset. So I'm going to click my original font here, which is a filled stitch. Okay, this will be a column stitch. I'm going to go into transform, and then I'm going to go here where it says shrink object. I'm going to select that, and here I want to shrink it by 2 mil, so I have a nice border with my outline and my my column stitch. So it's already on 2 mil here, but you can left click to increase or right click to decrease, or you can click here on this black arrow here and key in the exact measurements there. But I already have it on 2 mil, so I'm just going to click the check mark and it would have shrunk it for me. Okay, so in order for you to see that, I'm just going to go into parameters and just set those set my stitches. So pour compensation for this 0.3. My density is going to be 3.5. Okay, I have it on the auto column because that's what it does for fonts. You can change it, but it automatically defaults to auto column, which I'm fine with because it looks like a satin stitch. It's basically a satin stitch. The underlay, I'm going to leave it to do its own thing, so it's going to automatically generate that for me. I'm going to click apply and generate the stitches, and if I zoom in, you can see how that looks. So I have my bean stitch and I have my satin stitch as well, and it fits really nicely. So I'm just going to continue and finish these ones. In fact, I'm going to show you what I do with the letter D. So I'm going to select the D, auto outline. It's asking me if I want it to be a compact outline. I'm going to click yes. And then it's asking me if I want a connection. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to tell you why I've said no. If we look here at this window, you can see that my D has actually done the outside of the D, and then you've got the inside part of the D. If I had created a connection, it would have had a line, a stitch going from this shape here, which is the inside of the D, to the outside of the D. And then when I have my satin stitch inside, you'd be able to see that connection. So I didn't want that connection there, so that is why I've clicked no for a connection. So once that is done, I just go to my D now, and I can transform it, shrink it by 2 mil, hit the check mark, and we are done. So I'm just going to continue to create the outline and the satin stitch, and then I will be back to show you how to create the rest of the patch. Okay, so far we have our outline for our fonts, and we have our satin stitch for our fonts also. For my satin stitch for my border, I'm just going to change that because I do not want my machine to do a continuous run into doing these the lettering here. So I'm just going to give that just a color, just so that my machine knows when to stop, so I can do a color change. Right, the next thing now, because we've applied which types of stitches we want for each element, now I need to organize my stitches so it stitches out in the order that I want. So I'm going to move this satin stitch border that I have now, I'm going to move it to after all this has stitched out. So I'm going to highlight it here, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to drag it down, and you'll see a tiny little box near the arrow. I'm going to hover over the last thing that's in my list and let go, and I'm going to insert it after. So now it's going to stitch this out first. In fact, I need to stitch out my outline first. So I'm going to actually group my my outline. So I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right click and I'm going to group it, just so that I can move it with ease. I'm going to put that at the top because I want it to stitch out first. So it's going to do my outline first, and then it's going to do my lettering in the middle, and then I need it to do a kind of tack down, because if you've seen my previous video, you know that I used a different method where I did my design and then I cut round it, and then I did the final stitch on some water soluble stabilizer, which meant I was able to pop out the patch with a nice clean edge. So I'm going to duplicate my my satin stitch border here. So I'm duplicating it. So what I'm going to do is go to, so that it stays in the same place, I'm going to go into edit, I'm going to copy, edit and paste. Obviously you can do the shortcut, which is Ctrl+C for copy and Ctrl+V to paste. So I've got that here now pasted, and what I can do is assign it a color, because I want my machine to be able to stop. This obviously is not going to be the color of my patch, but this is just so that my machine knows when to stop. Okay, and I'm going to paste again. So I'm going to paste one more time, and I'm going to tell you what each one of these elements will represent as I do my stitch out on my machine. Okay, let's assign that one a color also. Okay, so I've got three rectangles here. My first rectangle is going to be my tack down, so that when I take my patch off the hoop, I know where to cut, because it's going to be kind of like an applique version. So it doesn't need to be a satin stitch, so I need to change the stitches for this. This just needs to be a running stitch. So I'm going to go into my parameters, and instead of having a satin stitch, I'm going to click on sample stitch, and that is fine. For the width and the length, I'm going to click apply and generate the stitches. Okay, so I have my tack down stitch. The next stitch, so here is where it will do this this stitch, and then I will cut it out. Okay, I will then hoop my water soluble stabilizer, and then it's going to do another it's going to do a placement stitch now on my water soluble. So this also doesn't need to be a satin stitch, so I can change that also. So I'm going to change that to just a sample stitch, apply and generate. Okay, so once it's done my placement stitch, then I put down my patch which I've cut out, and then I need to do a tack down stitch. So I actually need another one of these rectangles, so I'm just going to paste that very quickly and give it a color. Right, so for this one, where it's going to do the tack down of my applique, I'm going to call it an applique patch. I need to make this just a little bit smaller than the actual edge, just so that I know that it's going to tack it down with no issues. So here I'm going to shrink this rectangle. So I'm going to go into transform. We're going to shrink the object, and I'm going to shrink it to about 0.5, I think would be a good size to shrink it to. So 0.5, hit the check mark, and we can see here that it fits nicely into where that satin stitch is going to be, and I also know that it's going to be covered also. I need to make sure that this is just also a sample stitch and not a satin stitch. Apply and generate. And my last one here is going to be a satin stitch. So that is the patch done. Okay, I'm going to just select everything and just make sure everything is generated, and then we're going to check it out on the Sew Simulator. This icon here is just a quick button to generate your stitches. Otherwise you can go right click and then generate your stitches there, or go into parameters, but we have an icon up here which you can just click on. Right, now that's done, I'm going to go into the Sew Simulator, and let's have a look at how this is going to stitch out. I'm just going to speed it up just a little bit. So that is the outline. Let's go into 3D mode. That's the outline of my lettering. and this is a bean stitch. So now I'm now going to do the actual lettering, which is a satin stitch. Okay, now once that is done, so my fabric will already be down, whichever fabric you're using, if it's cotton or felt, okay, that will already be down on my hoop, and then these stitches will be done. And then the next thing it's going to do is going to do the rectangle, so I know where to cut when I cut out my patch. So here's my rectangle, done. This is the point where I remove my design from the machine, unhoop it, and then cut as close as I can to these stitches. I then hoop my water soluble stabilizer, and then on my water soluble stabilizer it will then do this outline for me. I then stick my patch that I've cut out, I stick it into this shape here now, and then the next stitch is going to be this tack down stitch, which if I zoom in you can see it's just inside that green stitch that you can see there, so that there's no issues with tacking it down. And then once that is done, it will then do the satin stitch, which you can see here. Let's just speed that up. Okay, so I would advise to save this as an editable file. So what I do is I go into design and I'm going to click save as, and let's just put it on the desktop. So I'm going to save it as EDS patch, EDS patch. And you can see here that the type of file that it's going to be saved as is embed outline format EOF. So this means if I need to edit it for any reason, I can still do so. So I'm going to just save that. So that's now saved on my desktop. Now to save this so that your machine can recognize the file, because you can't just save it as it is and then transfer it to your embroidery machine, it won't work. You need to then come into this icon here. Okay, so this is where you're going to be able to save your stitches and convert them into embed editor. So I'm going to click on this icon here that looks like an M. So it has brought me into embed editor. I'm just going to skip this part. Okay, so now I've got the different formats that I can save my patch as. Okay, so here, because I previously saved my patch as a genomic file, that's why it's already highlighted. But depending on what file type you need for your machine, you are going to click whatever your machine is over here. Okay, the next thing is you can either have this in the center of the hoop or not. Once your design is in your machine, you can move it, but I'm going to leave it in the center of the hoop. Okay, we can see here that it's selected the JEF format. Select the one that is correct for your machine. I'm going to click OK. And then it's going to ask where I want it saved. Again, I'm going to just pick my desktop, and I have it here, EDS patch, and it's saying it's saved as type JEF save. Okay, it's completed. Okay, that is how you convert your design, your digitized file, into a format that can be then put inside your machine. And what I normally do is I then get my USB that I have in my Janome embroidery machine, and then I just copy that file from my desktop onto that my flash drive, and that's it. I put that flash drive into my machine and the design is in there ready to go.
So if you found this video useful or interesting, please like and subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and turn on your post notification bell so you know when I upload a new video. Please feel free to interact in the comments section by leaving any questions or any comments that you have in the comments section below. And as always, guys, don't have a good day. Have an amazing day. Till next time. Bye.